Wow. Oh, holy fuck. So this is Anna Imagination with the Healing Garden, and I'm reading Broken, and I just read the prologue. It's the first time in 10 years I've gone back into that perspective. And oh my God, the PTSD is extraordinarily laid out. It's absolutely like, I talk on fear and it's spot on. It is absolutely spot on. And I'm looking at it with where I was and where I am now with sexuality and with fear. And it's definitely this, it's extraordinary. It's something that I'm still battling. I wouldn't say I'm battling with it. It's been something that's been so difficult for me to separate. Is there's my sexuality, and then there's the abuse, and then there's the fear, and then there's the conditioning, and then there's my sexuality again. And it went through this massive evolution. And it took so much to completely remove it, to completely remove all of the bullshit that was on top of the sex from all of the trauma. And I'm now at a point, it took me a year of celibacy, but I'm now at a point where I've removed all of this crap from it. And now I have my raw, authentic sexuality back. And I've got all of these people, this massive argument that's taking place about sexuality. And I've got people saying monogamy is right, polyamory is right. And I've got people on both sides, both giving solid arguments for both sides. And here I am, the psychologist in the middle of it, analyzing both sides. Now, I'm going to set all of this aside for a moment and talk about mythology. I'm going to talk about the Assyro-Vanir War. I'm going to talk about the Roman Empire and the Christian Church. And I'm going to talk about the Greek culture, as well as focusing on the Irish mythology. They all have the exact same thing. Basically, there were the Tuatha. And if you go back and you look at the mythology, both with the Greek culture, the Roman culture, and the divine with the Assyro-Vanir and the Tuatha, it's all polyamorous, 100%. The Tuatha took it to an extreme where there's incest involved. Like, we're talking Game of the Thrones level shit. Like, it's all over. There's no, it was very much I wouldn't say it was free love. It was just their views on sexuality were very, very different. And then when you look at, of course, Roman and Greek culture, how they used and celebrated polyamory. Now, then you have the Christian church come up in the 3rd century, where there's this, the 4th century, where there's this massive, complete shift from Greek and Roman polyamory to solid monogamy that the church used to instill. Now, there's a whole lot of psychological reason behind that. And I've broken it down in other videos, but we're going to set that aside for just a minute. So that was there is an exact pinpoint of a moment in our time period where we can point at the 4th century and say, Council of Nicaea, right there. Everyone stops being polyamory right there, and we switch over to monogamy right in that moment. And there's a divide. Now, if you look over at the Tuatha, they were, again, like the Romans and the Greeks, all over the place. I think of all the religions out there, of all the cultures and practices, the Tuatha were the most out there. Like, yeah, holy shit. It's like there was a contest to see who could be more debaucherous. and it was like a one-up contest. And that's actually part of the Irish myth, is that there were contests where they could one-up each other on their debauchery. So the Assyro-Vanir War, this is like, there's mythology, there's Norse mythology. Okay, let's go back. Let's do this. Let's do this. So you have the Marvel Comics. Big eye roll. Let's throw that garbage out. I love Marvel, but my God, no, there's so much inaccuracy. So we're going to throw that out. Then there is Game of Thrones. Oh, but dad fucking accurate. Oh my God, I can sit down and point you all of the little resources that the dude, I can't remember his name, Martin, sat there and took right out of the original resources. I use the same resources, so did Tolkien. So you got Game of Thrones. He did mostly Icelandic research, not so much Old Norse. Like, I mean, it's all Old Norse, but he didn't do Norwegian or Sweden. Beowulf is Swedish, and Tolkien is, okay, yeah, here you go. So this is it. Tolkien focuses primarily on Anglo-Saxon. Anglo-Saxon Viking. I focus on Norwegian Viking. Beowulf focus on Swedish Viking, and George R.R. Martin focuses on Icelandic Viking. There you go. That's the full scope of it. So it's all these different, and it's all the same resources. It's all coming back to Snorri Sturluson. So we're going to go back even further, because so you have this George R.R. Martin, John Ronald Reuel Tolkien. You've got my material, and then you've got Beowulf. Now Beowulf is like right around here. Actually, is Beowulf before or after Snorri Sturluson? Snorri Sturluson is the 10th century, 11th century Icelandic monk. So Beowulf is older still. And then you've got Beowulf. So it's Beowulf, and then it's Snorri Sturluson. Now, that's all we've got. Oh, we also have Ibn Fadlan, who was an Arabic explorer who basically found his way into Norway and lived among the Vikings for a while in the 10th century. So we also have his writings as well. But he was judgmental. His writings were very, very critical of the culture. So those are all the resources we have available. That's all we've got on Norse mythology. So when you pool all of these original resources, Snorri Sturluson's work, back together, so there's talk about there being a war between the two gods. There were the Aesir and the Vanir. These were like clans. They were clans. Now, if you sit down and you look at the Irish myth, this is what it looks like. Okay, I need to translate this for you. The Vanir were Asgardians. The Aesir were not. So there were two types of Norse gods, those who were in Asgard and those who were pre-Asgard. Those who were in Asgard, the Vanir, are basically Odin, Thor. You all know those guys. Welcome to Marvel movies. Hell is absolutely fucked up as far as how it's depicted in Marvel. Loki and Hell are 100% done wrong, according to the myth, with what Marvel Comics did. Hell is actually Loki's daughter, and Hel was also the goddess of the underworld. And she worked with Loki during Ragnarok to bring about the end of days. And Loki was actually a best friend to Odin. And he was an uncle. He was more of an uncle type to Thor. So that's how everything kind of got fucked up as far as what Marvel did with it, how they changed things around. But it's neither here and there. Just understand that, because when you look at the Aesir and the Vanir war, it was the Vanir, the Asgardians, who basically fought this war with this other god type. The god type were basically these were the massive gods who gave birth to Asgard. Now, if you take the Aesir and line them up with the Tuatha Dé Danann, they're identical, to the point where I'm looking at them and I went, holy shit, right down to the fucking language. They are identical. The same roles, the same stories, fucking mirror images of each other. And if you look at the way the Norse literally Vikinged, there's, okay. At one point, Vikings ruled all of Ireland. And it was like the 10th, 11th century that the High Kings of Ireland were 100% Norwegian kings. And they married into the line, and then it was like Eric Bloodton. I can't remember his precise name, who it was, but he basically ended up on the throne of Ireland. And the Irish kings, the High Kings of Ireland, are Vikings from Norway who basically married into it. So when you look at the Viking influence all over Ireland, Scotland, and England, my favorite, New York. Let's do this. New York comes from New Jorvik. Jorvik is not Y-O-R-K. York is what it's called now. It used to be called Jorvik, Jorvic, which is an Old Norse word for the town of Jorvik, located in Anglo-Saxon, or the Anglo area, right where York is located today. And it was the Viking capital in England, called Jorvik. It's where all of the Viking trade took place. There was more Viking, there was more Norwegian all over Normandy, England, Scotland, Wales, and Ireland than anything else. It was all just this massive Norwegian center. So the influence with the religions, with the mythologies, was understandable. So when you look at the Old Norse mythology with the Aesir and the Vanir War, and you compare it to the Tuatha Dé Danann, they're identical. So here's the deal. Basically, the Asgards, and it sounds like the Norse gods, got into a war with the Irish gods. And there was a dispute over polyamory and monogamy. The Vanir, according to Snorri Sturluson, the 11th or the 12th century monk who wrote the Prose Edda, basically reflects on how the Asgardians, did not approve of the promiscuity and the debauchery of the Tuatha Dé Danann, exactly like we see in the Roman and Greek culture with the Christian Empire. It's parallel. And when you look at the war that goes on, by the way, this is depicting a war that took place in the 6000 BC. We're talking fucking old, around the time that the pyramids were made, around the time that Stonehenge was made. Yes, around that time period. There was a war, and the Tuatha Dé Danann basically lost the war. And the Tuatha Dé Danann lost the war. The Vanir took over. And that's when Old Norse or the Norse mythology took over. Now, at that time, according to the Irish myth, there was a war also in the Irish mythology of the Tuatha Dé Danann versus the Firbolg. And I'm thinking that the Firbolg were actually the the Vanir, the Norse gods. So both religions, both the Irish myth and the Norse myth, reflect on this massive war that took place. And you get both sides of the story. You get the Old Norse talking about how the Vanir, the Asgards, overtook and won the war, and then you have Norse mythology there. In the meantime, you have the Tuatha Dé Danann and how they lost the war, and when the Tuatha lost the war, they went underground. And to this day, it's still believed that there's gods living in the earth, the Fae, and you have little fairy mounds that come about all over the place. And it's because the Tuatha, when they lost the war back in the Aesir-Vanir War, descended into the earth, and their magic spills out into the earth today, which is why, if there is still magic in this world, it is in Ireland. And it's absolutely this amazing thing, but it all comes down to the sexuality, the polyamory versus the monogamy. Meanwhile, now we're looking at the year 30 BC, 30 AD. We're looking at the year, the 3rd and 4th century. There's this conflict again between polyamory and monogamy. And finally, the Christian church rises up and says, no, monogamy, and it shuts down polyamory. So you have two massive roots of polyamory, both with the Tuatha Dé Danann, or the Aesir, and also with the Greek and Roman culture, both suddenly suppressed. And monogamy now reigns all. So you've got the monogamy established with the Asgardians, and you have monogamy established with Christianity. Now, the reason why this is important is because while the Christian Empire went off and did its thing and imperialized all cultures, there were a number of cultures it could not penetrate. The Celtic and the Norwegian could not touch Scandinavia. It wasn't until the 10th, 11th century, that Ole Tryggvason finally invaded Norway, finally took Christianity, and he Christianized Scandinavia in 5 years. He did in 5 years to Norway what the Roman Empire, what the Holy Roman Empire did to Europe in 1,000 years. Brutal, vital shit. That's when the crucifix popped up, where you see the little cross. It was actually T for Thor, or Mjolnir's, and it was turned upside down. No, I'm a Christian. See, don't kill me. And that's how the crucifix came into existence, was because of the T for Thor, which is also represented as Mjolnir. And it was a token, a talisman that the Norwegian people wore to protect themselves against the Christianization, to prove that they were honorable and true to Christ, to keep themselves alive. The horrors that Olaf Tryggvason did, absolute fucking horrors. So that all being said, you have this massive, basically this conflict between monogamy and polyamory. And it's something that I've been, like, to be perfectly blunt, I've been polyamorous since day one. I'm on the side of the Tuatha Dé Danann, 100%. But I had so much sex trauma on top of that, that And then I had my conditioning from my parents saying, oh, it's monogamy, go this direction. So I've been at conflict going, is it trauma based? Is it trauma based? So I'm ripping apart my psyche, trying to get to the core of my own sexuality. But to be blunt, I've had so many people fucking tamper with my sex that I haven't been able to figure it out. So I've had to go through this extenuating process of ripping out all sex trauma out of my head so I can get to the core. And whenever I engage with polyamory behavior, I've got people who are throwing their monogamy perspective at me, screaming at me, going, well, okay, we're going to do this because this is psych work. They're screaming at me saying, well, that's your trauma. That's because, well, of course you have these feelings because of your trauma. So they've been using my polyamory ethics as their ammunition to prove that I'm that fucked up because I'm not monogamous. Now, I'm sitting here taking my psych work and I'm pulling it apart. And this is really why I do psych work, is because I'm trying to figure out which one of these is healthy and which one of these is not. And it keeps coming back to the same argument that we see from the Tuatha and the Old Norse myths, the same argument that I see with the Christian church and the Roman Empire, that there is a massive monogamy, polyamory war that is still going on to this day because, and this is what it breaks down to, monogamous people are projecting their insecurities of their own sexuality onto others to control others' sexuality so they can feel more in control. It's fear-based. That's what my psych work has been basically to get things down to. And every time we step away from it, it's this concept of needing to close our minds to close it off from, oh no, sexuality is sacred. Now, in the meantime, polyamorous people are sitting here, that's their argument, but monogamous people are arguing that it's a divine, it's a sacred divinity, that it needs to be honored and cherished between only two people. And I'm sitting here looking at the abundance scarcity cycle going, well, wait a minute. Is this something that actually reflects properly? Is it fear-based? Which is right? Is this an ethical or a moral? And then there's people who are throwing it all out saying, oh, well, it's to each his own. No, it's not. Yes, it's to each his own. But if it is contingently fear-based, that means, like anything else, it is a pandemic of fear that we are not keeping in check. And if that is the case, we need to address it. Because if it's a controlling, projecting fear mechanism used to control and manipulate other people. Now, I've been a slave and I have this mentality that's really solid in the concept that when you are basically, it's ownership, it's sexual ownership. It's when you come together in this divine thing of, okay, this is my body and you now possess it. So if that changes, then it's suddenly, I'm off doing my own thing. Welcome to the whim. And the whim comes from the energy. And this is where I'm standing with the Tuatha and saying, no, the energy field says I have to have sex with this person. I have the impulse, I have the desire, I have the feeling. And the energy says, yes. If I want it, why not? And then you've got all these monogamous people saying, well, because, that's lust, that's evil. That's from the church. That word did not come into existence until the 4th century when the church made it up in the Council of Nicaea. It did not exist, just like the words glutton. The 7 deadly sins are 100% church and fear-based that were put together by the campaign, by the Christian church in the Council of Nicaea. Try again. Give me an argument that supports monogamy without any fear. And I have yet to see it. So I'm on this massive, which is right, which is wrong. And I'm looking at the psychology of which is healthy. And if it ultimately comes down to fear and control and slavery, then it needs to be addressed. We need to address the insecurity that underlies monogamy. This is the ultimate question, is there an insecurity that is underlying all of monogamy? Can you prove to me that monogamy exists because there's no insecurity? And I have yet to see a single case where insecurity and fear and I own and possess this body of my partner is not part of that. So whenever I'm in a relationship with somebody, I have this conflict inside of me because my brain is hardwired to what is healthy. And I can't figure out what's healthy. Which is why I went celibate for a year, was because I'm trying to figure out which is this? which side of the spectrum is it? It's not so much who's right or who's wrong. It's not about ethics. Oh, it's not about ethics at all. I'm looking at the psychology of what is healthy. And if monogamy is steeped in fear and insecurity, as I'm looking at it going, yeah, this definitely is fear. I have yet to see, and every time I talk about monogamy, or polyamory and monogamy, polyamory people are really laid back about it. They're like, yeah, and they've given me their views. Now they have their own. I've gotten a few arguments from polyamorous people that are also fear based, and I'm looking at that going, that's more control. That's a variation of fear based. Every time you have something that's steeped in all of these rules, that is a projection of somebody else's insecurity. Rules are not boundaries. Rules are a projection of your fear onto someone else because you don't want to because you basically want to control the situation. Rules are a projection of fear every time. And I'm looking at it going, are these, and it's a terrifying topic. It is like our core fear, not having enough love, because we live in a scarcity based environment, a scarcity based society. And that's really what's on the table here. We are talking about a concept where there is only one person who could and will love you. Only one person. Now, polyamorous people are rolling their eyes at that, going, really? Really? One person? There's an abundance of love. Now, I'm looking at this in the aspect of the energy field. We share everything. I've got 8 billion threads connected to me from all of you. We share everything. Now, it doesn't mean that we're jumping into bed with each and every one of us. That's not what it means. It's sex with purpose. And the more I heal, the more I'm going toward this, the more I'm leaning over toward this way with polyamory, but not so much in the sense of, oh, I can just sleep with whomever. No, that's black and white thinking again. And monogamous people have a really bad habit of thinking black and white. And there's basically 3 types of people. There's monogamous people who think black and white. And then there's polyamorous people who think black and white. And then there's polyamorous people who think in the spectrum, who can see all the different variations. My goal is to live a life without fear and be authentic. And if we're in a position where we are pursuing authenticity, then at what point do we outgrow monogamy? Is monogamy something that we only practice within a certain set mindset, a certain education level, so that when you finally get to this point, you realize that there's a contradiction between monogamy and polyamory and having the education level? And I see so many people who are at that point where they're presenting logical argument after logical argument about how we're connected, how we are one. Oh, but you got to be monogamous. And I'm looking at it going, that's so illogical. Because if we are all one, and if love and abundance is everywhere, then, and if we're ruled and moved by the energy, then whenever you get that desire, that deep want, it's coming from the energy pool. And if it's coming from the energy pool, it's because the energy wants you to pursue it. But if you are unable to connect to your love system, your identity wants fears with manifestation, where you're going into that direction, and you've got this societal thing saying, no, monogamy is the only right way, it's going to conflict with the energy pool. And the energy pool is not monogamous. Bottom line, the energy pool infuses all of these feelings and all of these concepts into you. So it's this massive divide of which one of these is it going to go in. So I'm reading Broken now, and she's breaking down all of these concepts of this is fear and this is sex and this is how it's been weaponized in my body because of the abuse. And I'm looking at it going, how much of that is abuse? And how much of that is it really hurt? Now, I can definitely see the borderline personality disorder in there. Like that's absolutely solid, hands down. And there is so much borderline personality disorder and PTSD in there. It's disgusting. Like I can see that very clearly. And it's extraordinary because, and here's the thing, there were things that I said that I'm looking at it going, wow, that still rings true today. And the line that rings true is, you cannot keep me. You cannot have me. And that is still solid and true. But at the time that I wrote it, I thought it was fear-based. No, it was not fear-based back then. It was not fear-based. It was my truth. And that's just it, is when I have my authentic truth and it's been overshadowed by fear, there's an honesty that has to take place where you step up and you say, this cannot be the case. Oh yes, I'm definitely, and I'm still pursuing this answer. I'm still trying to figure out the answer to this. So it's a matter of really sitting down and digging all this out to try and figure out polyamory versus monogamy. And and I keep switching back and forth. I am literally toggling between these two theories and philosophies. And I'm looking at it going, I don't know. So I'm in this age of exploration right now. And then there's a lot of people who are like, oh, sex is so holy. And you have to make sure you be careful with what energy you put inside of you. I don't believe in that shit. I don't believe in that shit at all. No, no, I do not believe in that shit at all. Now, a person has good intentions or they don't. And if they are not coming from a place of authenticity, you can feel that. And if they are coming from a place of authenticity, you can feel that. A person, an individual, a chamber contains the bad energy. And putting it inside of you, as soon as you get away from the person, it's gone. And I've said this in my videos before, this whole concept of, oh, your energy goes inside somebody and stays inside of you for 7 years is such fucking bullshit. It's such fucking bullshit. Of all the bullshit that I've heard, that one is ranked at that top. I was raped in May, and the idea that his energy is still inside of me just really grates on me on so many ways. Fuck you. Don't tell me that his raping energy is inside of me for 7 fucking years. And I've had people tell me that. Oh, his energy. No, it's not fucking. No, no. You are pulling from second perspective bullshit from material that is so askew. Keep your shit to yourself. Don't tell me that this invasive asshole is invaded in me for 7 years. I don't feel it. There's nothing I hate more than these second perspective psychics messaging me to tell me, I've spoken to the energy and we can feel something inside of you. I know what you're feeling inside of me because I can also read the energy. I'm better at it than you are. Don't come to me telling me that I have to get your message when I can speak directly to the energy pool and I know shit that absolutely puts you down on the ground. Shut the fuck up. Like, there is so much invasive perspective garbage happening where people are telling me what my perspective is. And it's not like, and this is really it. Protect your own goddamn perspective. Every time you come into one of my videos, it's just my opinion. And I'll be the first to tell you, this is just my perspective. This is just my movie in my mind. Take it for however you want. If it resonates with you, fantastic. You're my people. You're on the same energy frequency as I am. If it doesn't resonate, well, guess what? You don't belong on my frequency. You belong to somebody else's frequency. Go home. Bottom line, go home because this is not your frequency. My frequency is a E major. So I'm looking for Tauruses. I'm looking for E majors. I'm looking for people who connect with me. I'm pretty sure cancers are my people. Cancers are my people. And we all have a shared frequency. Some of us have a shared frequency. Some of us are right next to each other on the vibrational frequency. And some of us are on way different polar opposites. If you're going to step into my perspective, respect my fucking perspective. Likewise, when I visit your perspective, I'm going to tread very gently and very carefully because it's going to be your perspective. So every time every time you tune into a YouTube video, you are treading very gently on someone else's perspective. Respect it. And it's this concept of you are a guest in my house, as in my perspective. I'm giving you my perspective. Be gentle with it because it is mine's solid, but a lot of people don't have a solid perspective. And the goal is you're either learning about other people's perspectives for your own information, or you are seeking an alignment with other people's perspectives. That is really what you are doing. You are doing one of the two things. And that's it. That's really it. We are literally on an educational mission of let's compare perspectives. Let's explore different perspectives, or you are looking for a community of your own perspective. So if you're here looking for a community, great, subscribe to the channel. If you're a visitor checking out my perspective to see if it works for you and it doesn't resonate, you're not on the same frequency. Now, you're more than welcome to visit as much as you want. But understand that really that is the pursuit of what we are doing. Every one of us is doing it. And I'm just putting mine out there saying this is my experience. And it requires vulnerability. It requires full exposure. It requires authenticity. It requires a full naked nudity of just here I am. And I'm going to talk about all the shit that's inside my head and all the feelings that people are terrified to talk about because it's vulnerable. And I'm the first. I'm the first stepping out there saying, let's talk about it. I was talking about this last night with a friend saying, let's put our cards on the table. Let's start comparing the stuff we're not talking about. This is my experience. This is my God self. I want to hear about your God self. Let's sit down and compare. Because until we stop putting aside this massive, oh, that's sacrilegious, you can't, fuck that shit. Don't tell me I'm not a God, because I can feel it. And so are you, because I can feel it. I can feel a God self in every one of us. And this whole concept of us going, oh, well, that's blasphemy. Second perspectives, get the fuck out of my life, because I'm not here to listen to your insecurities. You are using your own God problem to enable your own insecurity. You have such a massive problem with an emotional prosthetic. You have such a codependency on your religion that you're useless when it comes to giving me information that I can use. You're not here to do anything other than enable your own insecurity. Go away, second perspectives. I respect you for where you are, but you're to come into my perspective and then shit on me with where you are with your own inability to develop. You're not helping anybody. You're mentally sick and you need to go take care of your problems. You haven't learned self-comfort and you're using a God to take care of that problem for you. That's the problem. There is so much psychological turmoil that isn't addressed. And when you're pulling apart this stuff, it's the biggest, like third perspectives are more likely to heal. A narcissist is more likely to heal than a second perspective. The second perspectives have such a massive codependency happening with their religion and their God. It's disgusting. And I've seen fifth and sixth perspectives. I've seen seventh perspectives just cling to their religion, terrified of evolving and growth. Religion is the death of human evolution and growth. Religion is the Antichrist, because you're not going to grow if you're not going to admit that your religion is a codependent, parasitic relationship. When you use your religion as an emotional prosthetic for your own inability to comfort yourself, when you destroy your own ego for the sake of a God that you are clinging to for your own security, not fucking healthy. And you're so steeped into denial that you've literally shot yourself in the foot and broken both of your legs. And then you lay there crying that you need your God. Your God is in your head. It doesn't exist. So when somebody friendly steps up and says, let's talk about whether or not we are gods. Let's talk about the internal God self, how there is no God out there, how we are the gods, that we have forgotten that we are gods. And then the second perspectives of the first in line to scream, oh my God, blasphemy. You've got some mental issues that you really need to go take care of. When your codependency on your religion is taken care of, then we can talk. And that's really it, is I'm wanting to grow. I'm wanting to evolve. But I've got my mother's second perspective garbage running in my head going, oh, you can't talk about that. That's blasphemy. Mom, get out of my head. And that's really, it's like the last bit of it is every time I speak up and say, let's talk about the God self. Let's talk about the evolution of our healing and our internal growth. And then I've got, boom, religion. And it's like this dead obstacle. It's my obstacle. I need to vent this all out. Give me a minute. I have had this fucking obstacle for 40 years. This obstacle. I'll be reading a book, and then I'll get to this point in the history books where suddenly Christianity took over. We have no more material on this. They changed everything. It's now tainted by Christianity, and we don't know what the truth really is. Grr! I put that back down. I go get another book. I'm reading it. I'm actually learning something. I'm finally figuring out the truth. And then boom, Christianity took over. They completely wiped out the culture and they rewrote the books. We don't know what actually happened because Christianity happened. Oh! And I just am so fucking sick of the obstacles and the lack of evolution and growth that Christianity keeps getting in my fucking way. There. I said it. This is personal. This is a 35-year-long personal vendetta. Oh my God, I ask the church questions and the church is always right there since I was 4 years old going, oh, we don't talk about that. Stop getting in my way. I'm trying to grow. And that's just it. And here I am 40 years later, 35, 40 years later, I'm still trying to pursue my growth. And there's the Christians once again telling me, oh no, you can't do that. Get the fuck out of my way. And that's it. I have never had more pushback, more problems, more obstacles than the fucking Christian religion. Whether I'm reading a history book, whether they've tainted with the history, whether they've completely whitewashed things, whether they've completely altered the way things actually took place. It's ridiculous. When you go back and you find history books that predate the ones we're currently reading and they're different because Christianity happened, finding the truth would not be this hard if Christianity was not so fucking dead set against setting that second perspective down everybody's throats. And then I've got clients crying and screaming in turmoil over the religious abuse that second perspectives have rammed down their throats. There is nothing more toxic to our culture than Christianity. As a historian, they are a right pain in my fucking ass. Yes, they're in my fucking way because I'm trying to evolve and I'm trying to grow and I can feel my God power coming out. And I just want to shed my second perspective thinking, this bullshit from their invasive perspective, and just be who I am and shed all of this and step into it. Oh, but Christianity happened and they're in my fucking way again. So every time I come onto these videos and I've got second perspective screaming at me, or I've got, oh my God, my Facebook account, I stopped going there because second perspectives are telling me about their second perspective God. I am so fucking sick of hearing about the second perspective gods. I've been hearing about their bullshit and they're not saying anything new. They're saying the same repeated rhetoric that I've heard since I was 4 years old in church, having the same conversation. And I'm going, really? Why are you still in my life? Why are you still protesting my growth? So yes, I have a problem with second perspective. They're in my way. And I'm sitting here looking at sexuality now going polyamory, monogamy. And I've got Christianity second perspective bullshit going, oh, monogamy is right. Oh, good God, say something new. It's been 40 years. It's been 2,000 years. Try a different song. Grow for once. And it's this constant obstacle. So I'm finally at this point where I'm now tearing apart the polyamory and the monogamy. And I still have some phenomenal minds screaming, monogamy is it. This is where we need to go. And I'm going, are you taking sexuality and warping it into whatever it is you need to make yourself feel better because you're afraid? Are you doing that? And that's the ultimate question. If you are speaking out of fear, be honest with yourself, because what's on the line is your ability to share your partner. That's what's on the line. Bottom line, and that's a fucking hard topic. I'll be the first to tell you it is fucking hard. And it's all about the scarcity abundant mindset. When you have this scarcity mindset of, oh my God, I don't have enough love for me. I don't have enough attention. I don't have enough. Yes, your parents neglected you. Absolutely, that's steeped in that. Now, can you talk honestly about polyamory and monogamy without tapping into that scarcity mindset from when you were a child and you were terrified because you weren't seen, you weren't acknowledged? We project our fear of love scarcity onto our sexuality so much and so often that no one is willing to be courageous enough to overcome that, to actually talk about that. It is not an easy topic. It is like the ultimate fear. Oh my God, let's talk about polyamory and monogamy. And in order to do that, we have to go all the way back to when our parents treated us like we were invisible because there wasn't enough love or their time to go around because they had too many children, because they had too many mental illnesses, because they used us as an emotional prosthetic, putting us in a place where we were in this place where there's not enough love. So now you have scarcity of love, scarcity of time, scarcity of affection, scarcity of needs. I mean, it's a basic emotional need. And there was never enough to go around because our parents were incompetent. And now we go out and we find partners and we are literally hoarding our sexual partner in an attempt to recapture that insecurity that we experienced when we were children. So, are we really monogamous or are we just afraid? Are we that fucking terrified of scarcity of love that we are hoarding and enslaving the sexuality of our partners? Oh, yeah. I see manifestors sitting there obsessing about abundance, no scarcity, release it all go, but hold on to monogamy. That's inconsistent. Like, does anyone else notice this inconsistency? This scream for abundance and opening up and allowing yourself to share in the abundance, and there's enough for all, but not sex, not love. Oh, that's scarce. Yeah. And and I'll tell you, and I've seen it so many times where people will evolve and they get to this particular stage of growth and they finally heal enough where they can start talking about the fear of scarcity of love. Holy shit. And then they go, okay. And I'm there. I've been there for the last 2 fucking years with my partner where I'm in the middle of it right now, where I'm going, okay, I love my partner. He's crossed over. He's polyamorous. He sees the abundance of love and sex, and it doesn't threaten me. That competition mindset is hoarding and scarcity mindset from a lack of love, from a scarcity of love from when I was a child. So now I've got my partner and I'm going, okay, I can do this. I can open my mind, open my body, release my control onto him, and I can feel it. I can feel me releasing the control onto him and allowing and respecting his autonomy while he goes and seeks other lovers, knowing that they're not going to threaten me because I'm we're all different, because we're comparing apples and oranges. And I'm arguing with this monogamy polyamory argument right now. I appreciate how fucking hard this is. And I can feel the fear of there's not going to be enough love. There's not going to be enough time, because I always had to share my parents with my siblings. And no one ever chose me. My parents never fucking chose me. They chose my brothers. They chose my sisters. I was the black sheep that they threw away because I was different. So I never got that love. And here I am now projecting that same fucking fear right onto my partner. And I can feel me toggling monogamy and polyamory. And I can feel the abundance on that side. And I'm crossing over. I'm branching back into polyamory. And if I'm not in love, my polyamory comes back. It's only when I'm in love that I have this battle. When I'm not polyamory, I'm all over the place and I'm enjoying the abundance and I'm fine because there's no fear of scarcity. But boy, you enter the emotion love into it, and now there's a fear of scarcity. Now it's competition mindset. Now it's hoarding the love. Now it's projecting my control onto this person I love more than anything. And I can feel the fear and the projection come in. Now I want to shed it. I want to step away from the hoarding and the scarcity and go over to the abundance. And oh my God, is there abundance of love? And this is not a limited resource. And I can feel the whole just drip from me. And I'm going, all right, I can do this. I can explore this. And I have the most beautiful partner where he is waiting for me to go through this process. Oh my God, it's amazing watching it. It's like you have things to work out. I love you. I'll wait. Take your time. I know you've got to work through this. And I'm working through it and I'm going, all right, I'm there. And I can definitely feel how polyamory, and here's the bottom line. If it feels right, if it feels good, if it gives me joy. Monogamy does not feel right. Monogamy does not feel right to me. Monogamy does not feel good to me. It actually enables my insecurity. Every time I'm monogamous, I feel this slavery. I feel the enclosure. I feel the restriction. I feel the limitations. I feel the scarcity. And I feel the insecurity do this. Every time I'm monogamous, I feel my insecurity do this. And I'm going, well, that's a psychological red flag. Every time I'm polyamory, I see this massive drop of insecurity and I feel chill and I calm down and I'm going, interesting. And bottom line, every time I get into a monogamous relationship, I feel like something's just choking me and I feel the chains coming back. And I'm looking at it going, this is really fucking fascinating. And then I'm enabled. And then the jealousy increases. And the longer, and it's this massive codependent. Monogamy breeds codependency. Absolutely. It enables that insecurity and it breeds codependency. So I'm breaking down the psychology while I'm tackling my own fear system that gets woken up every time I approach monogamy. The more I approach polyamory, the more my fear system settles down. Isn't that interesting? And I'm looking at it going, bottom line, what feels right, what feels good? And the energy field, my whim and my intuition are pulling me to all of these different resources. Here's something interesting. If you don't isolate yourself, if you're monogamous and you don't isolate yourself, and you trust and turn yourself over to the energy field, what feelings will arise? Will you have the impulse and the attraction and the desire to other people? For me, yes, 100%, every time. The energy field pulls me and moves me and shifts me. And the only way I can cut off, the only way I can cut off the energy field is if I completely isolate myself from people, because I can feel the energy field saying, you're sexually attracted to this person, and you're sexually attracted to this person, and you're sexually attracted to this person. The energy field is literally pulling me, and it's not this lust. It's a feeling. It's the same fucking feeling I have when I want to go on an adventure. It's the same fucking intuitive feeling that I get when I want to go do something weird. It is fucking intuition. And I'm going, why is that intuition, sexual energy, any different from that intuition? And the only thing I can come up with every time I break down the psychology is monogamy breeds insecurity, and it enables my fear of that scarcity and abundance when it comes to sex and love. But pull love out of it, pull myself out of a relationship, and suddenly I don't have a problem having a relationship with the energy field. The energy field is literally pulling me in all of these different directions. You have to meet this person. You have to meet this person. You have to sleep with this person. You have to meet this person. You have to be in this position at this particular time. So I'm moving and I'm shifting according to the energy field. And the energy field is saying, you've been inside too long. You need to get out. You need to make sure you do more podcast videos. You need to make sure you read this book. You need to go into this over here. And by the way, you need to have sex with that person. And you need to have sex with that person over there. It's important that you not touch that person, but this person is good for you. You also need to have sex with that person. And I can feel all of these orders, commands, and moves and shifts. And they're all equal. It's not like the sex ones are over here and they're tainted with evil. It's not like that. It's all, there's the energy. And the energy communicates all of these things to me. And I am so fucking tuned in, and I go where the energy says. I call this my whim. And I'm moving with my whim. But then I fall in love, and there's the enabling. The codependency comes back. Suddenly I'm wanting to hoard. There's a scarcity. And as I do that, I feel it pulling away from the energy field. And now I'm out of alignment again. And I can feel it. So I'm going, okay, that's when I start to isolate myself. That's when I become a shut-in, because I can't contain what the energy wants me to do, because the energy absolutely tells me where I need to go. And if the energy says that I need to be seeing this person tonight and having sexual intercourse with him, well, that's what I got to do because the energy says so. And it's not lust. It's a cleanse. Let's get down to it. It feels like a cleanse. And Elaine said it the most from Seinfeld. She said it the best. It feels like you're taking out the garbage. But it really does feel like that. Like it's this energy cleanse. And I think there's two types. I think there's an energy cleanser, and then there's someone who does the cleansing. And our sexual energy is either you're cleansing the energy, or you are the person helping the other person doing the energy cleanse. And which one of those is how you're compatible sexually? This is what it feels like for me anyway. And if I don't, oh my God, do I get it feels so wrong. That's where the misalignment. And that's where I start to have mental issues. And that's where I start to feel this massive misalignment with the universe, because the universe and my whim are telling me to do A, B, C, D, E. And I'm saying, well, I'll do all of that except the sex part because I'm monogamous. And again, so when you look right down to that core, it doesn't feel right. Does it feel good? Monogamy is fear-based. Monogamy is hoarding. It is scarcity mindset, because we don't want to confront our deepest fear. Our deepest fear is a scarcity of love. Trust the universe. The universe will provide. And we're not trusting the universe with monogamy. We are controlling. We are projecting our own control. The universe says, no, you're polyamorous. We're all polyamorous. Because strategically, there's a reason why everyone needs to move the way we need to move. And monogamy resists that. Polyamory flows with it. That's my religion. Bottom line, resisting versus flowing. When I have to isolate myself to prevent the universe from interfering with my whim, that's resistance. And for me, with monogamy, every time, but you got to be fucking honest with yourself, because it's you versus your fear of love of scarcity. And that's a big one. That is a big fucking one. And most people are not ready for that one. And it is the last one. It is the last ultimate fear. Good God, it is the ultimate last confrontation. Scarcity of love, because that's what it really comes down to. How did your parents treat you? Let's talk about the neglect, the fact that they didn't have enough love because they were not mentally in a position to give it to you. So you did not get enough attention. You did not get enough visibility. Your tears were ignored. You were screamed at to shut up. And here we are as adults going, oh, I'm monogamous because I have to hoard all of the sex and the love for myself because if I don't, they don't choose me. Competition mindset. Competition mindset comes from hoarding and scarcity, back to scarcity of love. And that's really, really what we're up against. No one wants to talk about it because it's fucking scary. So yeah, I'm going to be talking about this a lot more because, oh, look, a fear spot. I got to poke at it. So yeah. It feels right. It feels good. It gives you joy. And bottom line is monogamy doesn't. And if monogamy does, I pose the huge question to you. Are you afraid? Are you really, really not afraid? And if you're emotional, if you're passionate about it, that's the clue. That's the clue. And I'm sitting here going, I remember how fucking scared I was, how adamant I was that monogamy was right. And now with polyamory, I'm exploring it and I'm going, what's the answer? And I just want to know the answer. And the thing is, with poly people, this is their fear. With poly people, they have a different fear. Control. They don't like being controlled sexually. So poly people are screaming, stop controlling me sexually. And monogamous people are screaming, there's not enough love. And those are the two emotional arguments. And I'm going, there's another place. There's another place, people. There's another place. Where is that place? And it's right in that place of, what if no one's controlling you and you're not control? Projection, internalizing. That's it. Monogamy projects, polyamory internalizes. So the goal is to be right at that place where you are neither projecting your sexuality or internalizing it. Fascinating. And I have met people who are polyamorous who sit right there. That's it. There are polyamory people way over here who are screaming, keep your shit off of me. Don't control me. And then you've got monogamous people over here screaming, this is the way. And then you've got these poly people, they're all poly, right here going, no, I am not going to put myself in a cage, and I'm going to follow my whim, and I'm not going to internalize or project. That's the balance. Don't call it monogamy or polygamy. Just focus on don't project, don't internalize, and don't put yourself in a cage. Open mind. Keep an open mind and follow your whim without having a closed mind. And don't project, don't internalize. That's the sweet spot. Explore, research, see what happens. Total naked honesty, naked truth, naked honesty, naked authenticity. I think that's going to be the name of my podcast when Michael comes on. Naked truth, naked honesty, naked authenticity. I like those words. If you love shit like this, like, subscribe, follow below, or comment. Let me know what part of the show resonated with you. Donate to the garden, help the garden grow. And take a look at my Linktree account. There's a lot. Just browse the menu. Browse the menu. I think I'm going to say that from now on. Look at my Linktree account and browse the menu. Thank you so much, and may the kindest of words always find you.